Uh-oh. But we're live. We're live on the Andre Duke Show with Carter Smith. For some reason, it's not wanting to broadcast to Carter's Twitter, but...
Oh, weird.
Yeah, but
That's all right.
Anyway, we're live. We're back. College football playoff tonight. Carter, Richie, how we doing, guys?
We are
Good,
doing
man.
good, Duke.
Doing great. Had a good day today. Got some things done. Got ready to go. Ready for the playoffs to kick off again tonight. Get a little college football action before we get into the new year, and then the 3 playoff games tomorrow. Man, I'm pumped up. I don't know about you guys, but this is going to be awesome.
I'm pumped. I'm nervous. I'm anxious. It's all the above.
Yeah.
I can't really express how happy I am for this time of the year. We finally have made it to pretty much, we're closing in on the finish line. Can't really express how important these games are for these teams going down the stretch, but this is what we've signed up for. This is what we've waited on all year. Hopefully these are the best games that we do see all year. That is something that I am looking forward to. So with that being said, Carter, what do you got for us tonight?
Yeah. Well, first of all, obviously we'll talk about it a little bit later on, but I know you guys saw it, and the price tag for Quinn Ewers keeps going up, man. I saw a report, and we'll get to more about it, but when you look at these transfer portal numbers, man, it's insane the amount of money that's being thrown around. And Quinn Ewers, he's not even announced that he's coming back, and teams are already just throwing bags of cash at him. $6 million for him to come play 1 year that's insane. That's an insane amount of money. But
you can buy a whole lot of kombucha with that.
Right. Everybody was all up in arms when he got $1 million out of high school for whatever, honest tea or kombucha or whatever it was. And then now, that's nothing. That's a drop in the bucket nowadays for a top quarterback. Look at what Bryce Underwood got at Michigan, right? He got, what was it, $12 million over 4 years or something?
Yeah, I think it was.
Yeah, so we got a lot of things moving
Absolutely.
and shaking. And then real quick, we got we'll get to Sid here in a second, but real quick, we got almost 100 people in here live. If you could come on over to YouTube and give us a like and subscribe and help us grow this thing. We're live Monday through Friday, 7:30, but obviously with tonight's playoff game, it is we had to bump it up a little bit, and also smoking a spiral sliced ham. But with that being said, make sure you like the video.
I'll get into it, man. Yeah, like the video, like and subscribe, hit the bell notifications, the alerts. That way you get an alert 30 minutes ahead of whenever we go live. But Brendan doesn't think it's Notre Dame that offered him. We'll see. We got some ideas on that. Sid, how about the SEC? Do we go ahead and just talk about that right now off the jump?
Yeah.
I think we should. I think we should, because we got our resident SEC homer in here tonight, and Andre Duke himself loves the SEC, carries the water for the SEC every chance he gets. Here's how it's going so far. The SEC is getting mollywopped by whoever they play. Just whoever they play. Ohio State took Tennessee, put them on the hub. Just absolute domination of one of the SEC's best teams. USC, one of the worst teams in the country, goes out and beats Texas A&M, one of the SEC's darlings. Oklahoma, the worst team in the SEC probably that's not named Vanderbilt or Kentucky, gets they get beat by Navy, a Navy team that Notre Dame put absolute clamps on. And then today was the holy grail for Midwest football. Bama versus Michigan. 7-5 Michigan going against 9-3 snubbed Alabama, the team that should have been in over Texas or over Indiana and SMU, the team that everybody is talking about was a playoff team, goes out and gets dominated by Michigan physically. And can we just say it? The SEC sucks. Like, this is
they're-
bad football.
They blow.
And just so everybody knows, don't come at me with, just they don't care about these games. Bama played everybody. Jalen Milroe played. Ryan Williams played. All their dudes played. Michigan was the one that had everybody opt out. Will Johnson didn't play. Mason Graham didn't play. Kenneth Grant didn't play. They had 4 or 5 draft picks on the defense side of the ball. Didn't play. Bama still couldn't move the ball. And you mean to tell me Bama was going to move the ball against Notre Dame or Penn State? Get out of here.
Oh, we got, LSU's holding it down right now. They're up by 20 on Baylor. So,
on Baylor.
Hey. Silver lining, guys. Silver lining here.
Oh, Baylor. How? What's the score of South Carolina, Illinois? How's that going?
I have not looked at that.
Yeah, I haven't either.
Final 21-17.
Ooh.
Burt gets a win. Illinois gets their 10 wins for the year.
Illinois beat South Carolina, who everybody was telling me might be the best 3-loss team in the SEC.
Yeah, it's not going well in the
exactly, Brendan. It's fucking Baylor.
Thank you, Brendan.
Jesus Christ. SEC is trash. Let's call it what it is. They've been great for 20 years. They're not as good anymore. And when Texas and Georgia lose tomorrow, SEC's out. SEC's out.
I don't know if Arizona State's got enough firepower to keep up with Texas.
Texas hasn't played a soul all year. I don't know.
I'm not disagreeing with you on that. Outside of Georgia, Dave's here.
Yep, Dave's here. He's a big Michigan fan.
Dave's here. Hey, you know what? With all things being said, Michigan, the last month of the season, Sharon Moore, a lot of people doubted them.
Some shit.
Their
defense is legit.
They had to hear it all year. Michigan did everything that they were supposed to do.
Hey, Michigan has won 4 straight versus Ohio State and has won 2 straight versus Alabama.
So, talk about they are dragon slayers.
They are dragon slayers. Andy, you're gonna whoop Georgia's ass. Isn't the punter out for the year? I think so. I don't know if that's a huge, swing in the game that their punter is out. Hopefully they have to punt a lot. That would be good for Notre Dame. Indiana didn't beat no one. No, they didn't, but neither did Texas.
Yeah, the Indiana pandering, but we've talked about that because whenever Indiana finally their season was going to be over, the teams that beat them all of a sudden wanted to pick them up and say, "Look, Indiana is good," like Simba and the Lion King. They wanted to pick them up and say Indiana was good, but Now let's get in the Wayback Machine and rewind a month leading up when Indiana was 8 or 9-0. Well, they haven't played anybody. They haven't beat anybody. Yeah. Indiana, everybody talked all that smack about Indiana. And then all of a sudden you want to turn around and say Indiana was good. No, which one is it? Because that was my running question. Is Indiana a good team?
Yeah. And I believe we've addressed that at length. I think the way that they performed against Ohio State made them seem like a decent team. I don't know if it made them a good team, but and then Travis wants to know, does anybody remember when the SEC was good at football? I do, man. It was a while ago. I sit down. I have a 7-year-old, a 5-year-old, and a 2-year-old, and we sit down and I tell them about the days of SEC glory and that, maybe one day they can get back to it.
Part of the reason SEC bedtime stories.
I don't know. The Indiana thing, I got to see more of a sample size other than a one-off year. Now, if Cignetti goes out and wins 10 games again.
How many SEC teams were in the Natty last year?
What does that have to do with Indiana winning?
No, you said one-off year. Oh, you're talking Indiana.
I'm talking Indiana. I'm just saying. That's a problem, and I agree with what Brendan says here. The NIL and transfer portal has decimated a lot of teams, but you know what? I'm not here going to sit on the hill and say what is what when it comes to this portal stuff. the portal is open for everybody. Everybody is open for business.
Yeah, I mean, you have teams that use it in the SEC and have done well with it. I mean, all of them do. Now, granted, yeah, Alabama lost a lot of people.
I mean,
did you hear the story? I just read it today about part of the reason Julian Sain left Alabama.
No, I did not see that.
Oh, because he had a meeting with Kalen DeBoer before he entered the transfer portal, and he said he showed up for the meeting at whatever time it was scheduled. Kalen DeBoer was almost an hour late, I think, for the meeting, and sat down and acted like he had never heard of the kid. And Julian was like, why am I going to play for this guy? Like, he doesn't value my time. He acts like I'm a nobody. Like, and not that he has some ego where it's like, you should act like but he was the number one quarterback in the country. Like, have a little respect for him. And, but that was wild.
And I also heard some grumblings today. There's going to be some teams in hitting some financial woes if they don't get this rev share money in August. It's going to, and we'll talk off air about this, but it's going to be some big issues here going forward if they do not get this in August, because they've got some payrolls that they have to meet. And I think some universities through all conferences, I'm not singling out any one conference or any one team, but there was somebody that, has a huge recruiting class, and I think they may have overcommitted. We'll talk off air about that one, but maybe some details of some things shake out. But, going forward, some of these teams have committed a ton of money, and when the rent's due, you better be able to deliver.
Yep, absolutely. Yep. And, we have some people in here asking the question of the day. That's the question. Who offered Quinn $6 million? Oregon? Maybe. Miami? I can go ahead and say I don't think it's Miami. They're not a playoff team. Ohio State? Could be. But let's get to some other things first before we dive into that topic. Obviously, Colorado went out and had a abysmal showing in their bowl game. And Coach Prime gets a lot of credit for what he's done at Colorado, but if you really look at what he's done, is it that impressive? Because he's 0-6 versus top 25 teams. He's 2-9 versus power conference teams with a 500 or better record, and pretty much just talks shit and wears chains and sunglasses. Like, are you impressed with what Coach Prime has done at Colorado?
I will say, when it comes to where they were opposed to where they are now, they were 1-11. They were treading water. It was on life support out there at Colorado. It was bad. They had a string of hires that didn't work out. People left. It's one of those things that, people want to give Deion I'm not going to say that, Colorado is a budding playoff contender every year. Did they make the right decision going back to the Big 12? Yes, because they were not a Pac-12 team. The conference was exploding. It was dunzo. Is Boulder a tough sell? A little bit, but the thing that I think Deion is doing well is he's identifying talent and trying to turn it around. Now, a lot of people don't like the brashness, and, we've been critical of it. It helps when you have Travis Hunter, you have the Heisman Trophy winner, and you have, Shador's probably going to be a top 5 pick. Now, what Deion does going forward, can that help? I need to see more of what it was, because year one, they didn't show up until after the first of the year. So I think that all things being fair, he didn't even really get a recruiting cycle in. And, they're using the portal because they're trying to build the high school relationship thing. I don't think that – I get why people don't like Deion. I understand it. It's not your cup of tea. It's not your traditional, Hugh Freeze, Brian Kelly, family, SEC. We're gonna coach them hard and we're gonna love them harder. Deion's bringing a professional sports mentality to Colorado, and he's loud about it. And he won 9 games this year. Did they run into a buzzsaw with BYU? Yeah.
But is it a buzzsaw, or did they just get shown to be the fraud that they are? Like BYU, I still don't think BYU is a good team. Like,
I think BYU's better than most. I think they're a top 25 team. Now,
for sure, yeah.
The thing with Colorado is that he's kind of in the rebuild mode. Do I think that he could go through and rebuild this thing? I think he's realistically 2 more years away. Is the Lewis kid? They got the transfer from Liberty. Who knows how good he'll be? I think that they've got the Pat Shurmur thing. I think they need to go get a legitimate offensive coordinator. That's just my opinion on that matter.
No, I think I agree. I mean, I think everything, we'll know everything next year based off how he does, because like he's had this run where he's gotten the program in a better place than it was, for sure. 100% deserves credit for that. Almost all of that is built on Shedeur and Travis Hunter, right? And he's losing both those guys, probably both top 5 picks, Heisman Trophy winner, overall, probably the number 1 quarterback taken off the board. And you're going to have to replace both those guys. And it's really 3 guys, because you have to replace a top corner and a top wide receiver in Travis Hunter. And can he do that? If he does that next year and they have a similar year to this year, then I think he's on the right way. But I think you're going to see a major regression next year, honestly.
I like to see where he's at year 5. Give him, let him get the 5-year plan, see how he recruits, see who he gets in from the transfer portal. Like Duke said, he's brought them from the depths of the abyss to where they're at now. Yeah, granted, they got mollywopped against BYU, but hey, I think he's sort of has them in the right direction. And everybody, ever since Prime was in the NFL, they've always talked about how flashy and fly he is, and that's just Dion. And I tip the cap to him just how well how he's done from year 1 to year 2. But time will tell how well he brings in, like you said, Carter, replacing those top positions, wide receiver, DB, and QB. It's I'm interested to see how it plays out for him.
Absolutely. And, we got some people in here think 2 to 3 years Sanders is leaving. I wouldn't be surprised, especially if the next 2 years don't go so well. I think he always used his platform in college football to raise up his son's draft stock and everything like that. And that's obviously proven successful. But, is what it is. In other news, I found this, and Duke, you sent it to me, and I thought it was interesting. The 2011 final AP poll was brought up again just recently. This is also the last AP poll that Ohio State was not ranked, I think, in the top 15. I don't even know if they're ranked at all, but this is the last time they haven't been ranked that high. And you got Bama finished 1, obviously, after beating LSU in the Natty. Oklahoma State, Oregon, Arkansas, USC, Stanford, Boise, South Carolina, Wisconsin, Michigan State, Michigan. When you look at that, if you put it into a 12-team playoff, it doesn't look that much different than this year, right? And everybody's complaining about conferences and everything like that. I mean, you're going to get 3 or 4 SEC teams in, 3 or 4 Big Ten teams in, another Boise State, another 3 teams from the Pac-12 or the ACC, Big 12, So, I mean, we haven't really come that far. It seems to be kind of status quo. I think everybody's kind of overreacting to the playoffs and how it worked out.
I wanted to bring this up just for the to look at this, and there's one thing you don't see even in the top 15. You know what? You don't see a 9-3 team in there. So this is after the bowl game. So like Baylor was 9-3, Kansas State was 9-3, and probably won their bowl game. But you don't
11-3.
You don't see another one on there though, do you?
No.
Not in the top 12.
No, I mean Wisconsin and Michigan State would have been 10-3 going into the bowl game somehow.
So I look at this as, did the committee really, really biff it that bad? Did they really spit the bit too awful bad? I don't think so. I think that, when it comes to this, we're going to have this debate all the time. But I think, going forward, the precedent is going to be you got to win 10 games. And, 10-2 and you're in. And, the luck of the draw, the Boise State gets a bye. I'm totally out on the bye thing. I
think they've already had conversations, from what I understand, about getting rid of the auto buys for conference champions. They'll get an auto bid, but I think they'll get rid of that next year.
Yeah, I just don't see it.
Because Boise, ultimately, that's what fucked up the whole seeding process.
Yeah,
is the auto buys.
Yeah.
Like, you can put them in. Like, Clemson shouldn't have been in, but they got auto bid. Okay. Well, they still had to play Texas round 1, so at least they had to come in and play somebody. Now, Boise State and Arizona State getting a bye, I think that's, everybody can agree, a little ridiculous. So get rid of the auto buys, which opens a Notre Dame up to be eligible for a bye, and then you do it, just the top 4 teams get auto buys, and then the next 8 teams get in. I mean, obviously, you're going to have conversations about 11 and 12 if there's a conference champion that's outside the top 12 that has to get in, like a Clemson or something like that. Like, you're obviously going to have the Alabamas of the world that go 9-3 and don't win a conference, and then Clemson goes 9-3, wins their conference and gets in, and it's just, that's how it has to work. But ultimately, I think the auto buys have got to go.
I think that you still have to put some weight on, not discounting what you were saying, but I still think that a team that wins their, Power 4 conference, whether it's the Big 12, the ACC, I think that you have to have those that carry weight. They have to carry weight.
They have to get in for a whole host of reasons, right? Number one, conference championships should still mean something. Number two, if you get rid of the conference champion auto bid and you start leaving the ACC and Big 12 out because you view their schedules as not equal to the SEC and Big 10, then you're lining yourself up for a whole bunch of antitrust lawsuits that you don't want to deal with if you're the NCAA and the college football playoff. So that's why those are there.
Yeah. Hold on 1 second, fellas. I'll be right back.
Yep. But the
go handle your meat.
SEC clowns are screaming that South Carolina is the hottest team that no one wants to play, and they get their ass beat by Illinois. Facts.
Big
Dave
facts.
said, I fell asleep, and another SEC we should have been in the playoffs team gets beat 100%.
Oh, nailed it, Dave. Nailed it.
Ah, man. But outside of all of that, if anything, hold on. No, if anything, the committee seated appropriately. I mean, if every team in the lower head loses their game in the first round, shouldn't that be considered the good seeding? Yeah, the lower seeds lost all in the first round. Now, I think that you could make an argument that a couple of those teams that had to play first round games could have gotten a bye over Arizona State and Boise State, like a Texas or a Notre Dame or an Ohio State or something like that. Like, those teams had better resumes than Arizona State and Boise State, so you could put them into the conversation for a bye. And then maybe you'd have more competitive games, like if it was Arizona State versus Indiana. Maybe Indiana could upset Arizona State or something like that. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Yep. But other than that, we got some games tonight. Obviously, we got the big game tonight kicking off here in about 30 minutes. Penn State faces Boise State. Your meat good, Duke? Everything all good?
Yeah, I had to go put it in shutdown mode and throw it in the oven.
Okay, I got you. But Penn State facing off with Boise State tonight. I think this game's going to be interesting. I mean, this will tell you everything you need to know about the auto buys. If Penn State goes out there and rolls Boise State, you got to get rid of the buys, right? I mean, Penn State's what, a 11.5-point favorite, 12.5-point favorite, something like that. And they're the lower seed, right?
Right.
So, yeah. I mean, when you look at this game, what do you guys look at first? What do you think, just initial reactions?
I think Penn State's defense. See how well they can contain Genty. Because they're just one-dimensional. I mean, if they shut down Genty, it's going to be a long night for the Broncos. That's what
I
think.
mean, yeah, their quarterback is mid.
Yeah.
He isn't great at anything. Their offense isn't great at passing the football. Penn State's defense is really good. It's one of the better defenses in the playoffs. I think when you look at it, it's going to come down to. I think it actually comes down to maybe the opposite. I think Genty's going to get his. I don't think he's going to go off or anything like that. Like he'll probably get 20 carries for 80 to 100 yards, a touchdown, something like that. I don't think he goes and explodes on this defense. But I think where the interesting part comes in is Penn State's offense is really interesting because it's not great. And Drew Aller has been very inconsistent and hasn't really shown up and produced other than the Oregon game. They were able to produce in the Oregon game. But other than that, very inconsistent. Running the football, they're not as good as I thought they would be. Obviously, they have Tyler Warren in the pass game. Other than that, they have no real weapons on the outside. Luckily for them, they're going up against, I think, the 82nd ranked pass defense in the country, and that's against a Mountain West schedule. So not a great pass defense. In the running game, they obviously have the two-headed monster in Singletary and Kayvon Allen. And so it'll come down to, this game's going to come down to, I think, if Boise State can go out and do kind of what Nebraska did to Ohio State, shorten the game, right? Limit the possessions that Penn State has, keep the ball as much as they can, and make it a shorter game and make it a closer game. I think that's the only way Boise State can win this game. I don't see them doing that. I think at the end of the day, Penn State has better athletes on both sides of the ball. Penn State has a much better defense, and their offense is decent enough. In what world, Duke, is there any world where you see Boise State coming out and shocking the world tonight, like they did against Oklahoma back in 2007 or whatever?
The only way I think Boise can keep this close is that if they can control the clock, if they can get first downs, down in distance, controlling the sticks, that's the only way. Penn State is going to have to make some mistakes defensively. Boise, I don't know if they're going to be able to hold up in the run game. Penn State is big up front. Obviously, we've seen the difference in style of play from SMU to what Penn State was. Even though I get it, it was a home game. We've got this thing to where you got to have the dudes up front, and if you do not have the guys up front, it is not going to bow well. And I wouldn't be shocked if Penn State beats them by 2 touchdowns or 10. I believe I'm looking at the line right now. It's at 12.5.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
So
yeah, I agree. I think that's the name of the game, and we got Penn State wins the game if they're supposed to win. 100%, that's true. Yeah, I agree. I think people have unrealistic expectations that first round games are all supposed to be close, nail biters, but the reality is there's too much of a talent gap. You have it in the NFL even. Like in the NFL, you have games that are blowouts that the team that's supposed to win wins by a bunch. And that happens when you have better teams. Penn State wins if they control the ball. I agree. Okay. Brandon brings up a good point, though. Then why have 12 teams if there's a huge talent gap? Why not 8 teams? Money. You're right. Money overcomplicates everything.
And you could stretch it out because look at normally the last big game of the year was the Rose Bowl. And college football was
early on, yeah.
College football was done,
January 1st.
January 1st or even, the second week of January. Well, now we're extended all the way to the third week of January, and then you normally have the 2-week postseason reaction on top of that. So they're just extending it into spring ball. College football is taken after the NFL. The draft is now a 3-day event. They are trying to keep college football in the news cycle, and the TV ratings show that. Look at the numbers that Notre Dame did. Look at the numbers that Ohio State did. Those are they're not NFL numbers. I get it. It's not the 20 million in viewership, but those are
they're not that far off.
They're not. No. They're really not that far off. And in certain neck of the woods, all the SEC fans, they're going to tune in and watch because their team's out. And when we break this down, I would have liked to seen I would have liked to seen 8 teams first, then maybe 12. Like a progression, but you go from 4 to 12, that's a huge gap, and there's no data that is involved in putting this process together, in my opinion.
Yeah. No, I agree. 8 teams might have been enough, like Sid said. I mean, that might have been enough. The thing is 8 teams, you get really tough, though, because what do? Are you going to give 5 auto bids still and only 3 at large?
Yeah,
because then you're going to be rocking with 8 teams, and the 8 teams would be Oregon, Georgia, Arizona State, Boise State, and Clemson. That's your 5 auto bids, and then you're going to get Ohio State, Notre Dame, and Texas. Well, you're getting the same thing here, except no, Penn State would be in. I don't know how you do it, right?
And one side note that I would like to throw out there. Can we stop playing NFL games on Saturdays?
No, it's never going to happen.
That won't happen.
It's just dumb.
Not late in the season. I mean,
no. So the NFL has been kind enough to not do it all year long. Like they were kind to the NCAA and said, "Hey, we won't try to take Saturday from you. But when you guys are done playing, we're going to play on Saturday." And then the NCAA expanded the playoffs, and now they're playing on Saturday late in the year, and the NFL is like, sorry, we're not going to stop playing. So that's on the NCAA.
Yeah, Phil makes a good point here.
Philip J.
Yep. Absolutely. I agree. Penn State will win. But Boise's done it. Boise's done it multiple times. They upset Georgia in the Georgia Dome. They beat Oklahoma in the Fiesta Bowl. I mean, they've done it before.
Yeah,
we see another Statue of Liberty.
Yeah, right. But Andre Duke would love to bring up that. Well, this is not a Chris Patterson team or whatever his name was. Right?
It is. It's not.
Chris Peterson. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just. And then have we reset the show yet?
No. Go ahead.
For all 131 people out there watching, if you could come on over to YouTube, we got plenty of people in the chat tonight. Hit that like and subscribe button. We are trying to grow the show. We are on the road to 500. We are trying to get this thing monetized. So we're trying to grow this show as quick as possible. If you could hit that like and subscribe button, that helps us a ton. And, going forward, we're going to be with you all the way through the playoffs and all the way through spring ball and all the way through the summer. But in the summertime, are we going to be able to figure it out? Yes, we'll be able to figure out the summer. And,
don't worry. Luckily, college football has turned this into a 24/7 news cycle for us. So there's plenty to talk about. We'll talk about other stuff. If it gets real slow, we might talk a little baseball or something every now and then, but not very often because baseball's kind of boring.
Yes,
I know.
I'd rather watch paint dry than watch baseball.
But yeah, if you could...
going to baseball games is so fun. I don't know what you're talking about.
They're fun. I'll say, going to
Cleveland. And I would contend that playoff baseball might be the greatest thing in sports. Like playoff baseball, there's nothing like it.
I like the NLCS, ALCS, World Series, and
like if you guys any baseball fans, I'll keep it short, I promise. But like watching the Indians and Yankees series this postseason, and the Yankees are dominating that series, right? And then all of a sudden the Indians go back-to-back home runs to tie it up, and then they'll win it in extras or whatever. I mean, that shit's so exciting. Like it just has a different feel. Yeah, exactly, Sid. I love the playoffs. I don't watch the regular season. Like 162 games, that's way too many.
That's a lot.
But yeah, and the one critique I would have to say is when it comes to the college football, the announcing has been rough this bowl season and this college football season. I watched the McAfee broadcast for the Ohio State game. Way more entertaining than Herbie and Chris Fowler.
Herbie and Chris Fowler were just sitting there talking about how great the SEC is the whole time and how terrible Ohio State fans are.
Wow.
I'm not saying they're wrong. I'm just saying that's what they're talking about.
That's just
Brennan brings up a good point. James Franklin is notorious for choking against top 10 teams, so I would not be surprised if Penn State lost. That's facts. He is known for doing that, so we'll see. We'll see how that goes tonight. Brian Kelly was bad.
Yeah, so that's where we're at right now, and then we're butting up against we're 25 minutes until the 4 panels, 8 laces kick off in the next college football playoff game. Carter, what do we got next?
Let's talk about the topic du jour while we're here. First of all, Herbie turned on Ohio State. Oh yeah, Herbie turned on Ohio State a long time ago. So I'll give you the background on Herbie and Ohio State. Kirk Herbstreit was a very mediocre quarterback at Ohio State. He was beloved by fans when he first got into media, but was always kind of a pretentious asshole around Columbus. That was just his reputation. He thought he was better than everybody. And then he got into some murky water where he was allegedly having some affairs in the Upper Arlington area and had to sell his house and turned around and blamed it on the fans and said that the fans were being mean to him. And that's when he had to get out of here. And then he went full, kind of the opposite of Desmond Howard, where Desmond Howard's such a Michigan homer that Herbie felt like he had to be so anti-Ohio State at times that it pissed off the fan base. He talks so much shit about the fan base, and it really rubbed everybody the wrong way. But outside of that, we can get into it. Quinn Ewers preparing for a playoff game. No, absolutely. I'm happy to spill any beans about Ohio State that I may have. Coming to Dayton. Let's see how this Georgia game goes, and then I'll fill you in because I might try to schedule a little something in Dayton if Notre Dame advances. But Quinn Ewers goes and he's got a playoff game to prepare for. But obviously, everybody wants to know what Quinn Ewers is going to do next, right? Because he's been mediocre this year, hasn't been great. Kind of like Carson Beck. Carson Beck and Quinn Ewers were the hot names coming into the year, along with Shedeur Sanders, to be the top quarterback taken in the NFL. Quinn Ewers and Carson Beck had really mediocre years, and Quinn Ewers came in and with the idea that he's going to the NFL, and he didn't change his mind, so he's going to the NFL. Quinn Ewers, from my understanding, and I don't have anybody close to the family or anything like that, but I've heard rumblings that he is strongly considering coming back because I don't think his draft grade that he's getting back is going to be as high as he expected. And so with him coming back, Texas doesn't want him back. Texas has Arch Manning ready to go, and they're ready for Arch to be the guy. So that brings up an interesting spot where you have a proven starter who was really good at one point, had a down year this year. Now, let's not forget the fact that Texas has had a down year offensively because of a lot of injuries to skill position players, specifically running backs and things like that. But top name, if he were to enter the transfer portal, obviously Quinn Ewers would be the number one quarterback in the portal. He would be the hot commodity, and that's going to drive the price up. And so reports came out today, I think it was, or yesterday, that a certain school that I have heard about offering $4 million has upped their offer to $6 million for Quinn Ewers to be their quarterback one starting next fall. And a lot of people in the chat even have been guessing, who is it? Oregon, Ohio State, Miami, Notre Dame. Who could it be? Well, my understanding is that it is the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. I believe they looked at their quarterback room. They like Angeli, but they don't love him. There's question marks about Carr being ready. And if they could go, they don't necessarily have to add transfer depth. But if they could go get the top guy, kind of like O'Reilly Leonard, he wasn't the top guy, but he was one of the top quarterbacks. they've seen this work for them, right? Sam Hartman was good. He was okay. Didn't work out great. Riley Leonard has been good. It's worked out pretty great. And now they think that Quinn Ewers is an enhanced version of Riley Leonard. Maybe not quite the runner that Riley is, but he's a much better passer. And I know for a fact that the Notre Dame NIL has been just bringing in money in case this happens. What do you guys think about that?
Go ahead, Richie.
I think it would be a good spot for him if he were to go to Notre Dame. You know, he's got some talented wideouts, a staunch defense. I think that's, you know, that would help his draft stock come next year. Because I see Quinn Ewers being a third-round quarterback, maybe even early fourth, because he's just not had the year that we've all expected him to have. And I think him possibly going to Notre Dame could help his draft stock next year. Plus, you know, the injuries, those have hurt him tremendously this year as well. That's where I think he would be best suited. Some people are saying Ohio State. I don't think he's not coming back to Columbus after getting the shaft, you know, not being on the travel squad. I think Notre Dame is the most ideal spot, like you said, Carter, with CJ Carr. They love him, but they like him, but they don't love him. And here you're getting a touted gunslinger who can hopefully, like I said, stay healthy next year and improve his draft grade, and go from there, projecting getting better.
Mm-hmm.
You know, this is this quote unquote story. The big publications are probably going to try to discredit it. Me and Carter have been working on this through two different avenues, and we're getting back the same things from different people. So I think that we're confident enough to, you know, throw it out here, put it on wax, that this is something that is being heavily considered, or at least even being talked about. You know, it's one of those things that, you know, whenever we come up with a story like this, it just doesn't come out of thin air. There's a lot of people that, you know, get in front of the mic and camera, and I'm not going to say that they make things up, but, you know, sometimes they do stretch the truth. And also there's a protection aspect that goes into this, as well as anything in the media. There's people that will tell you one thing, but they're really having a different conversation about something else. And if somebody finds this information out that's not quote unquote in the circle, they'll try to discredit it. And that has happened, just like when we went down this road with the Deuce Knight stuff in the springtime with the Notre Dame people that said, you guys don't know anything, you have no sources. Well, Deuce Knight is War Damn Eagle. He ain't putting on the gold. He ain't putting on the gold dome. And then, you know, we had
not yet, at least.
We had some people that, you know, were saying all the way up, and he never decommitted and things like that. And then it was just a timing thing that it never happened. And I feel confident in that if this deal doesn't happen, at least it was on the table. It was talked about, and we try to, you know, we don't try to be the big breaking news show. We don't try to, you know, the things that we hear that we feel that are credible and legitimate. We'll put it out there for people to you know, to get your guys' opinion, because we develop our own opinion. But, you know, to stay in the, you know, the news thing. But we had heard this a couple of weeks ago, and we talked about it off camera for a while. And Carter went and did his thing, and I did my thing, and we both came back with the same information to a certain degree. I think the number that I got was a little bit higher, but, you know, I think we're going to see the higher number here. I think 6 million is not enough.
Well, and I think what it comes down to is I don't think, and so Dave said it. I agree. Bidding wars isn't Notre Dame's thing. That's not like Riley Leonard. When he entered the portal, he entered with a no contact tag. Was already decided he was going to Notre Dame. I think if Quinn Ewers is going to go to Notre Dame, the same thing will happen. He'll enter the portal with a no contact tag. It'll already be decided. and we can get into how that's done legally, because it is legal how they do it. And I know now how it's done. But it's not a bidding war. I think the main reason that I heard the number jumped is because Quinn is still heavily considering the NFL. And so it's not a bidding war against other schools, my understanding. It's a bidding war against the NFL. And so it's not even, but, we'll see if it comes to fruition. Again, he could go ball out these next couple weeks and get his draft stock better and go to the NFL like Carson Beck is doing, and do that. That's not off the table. And I know Quinn wants to go to the NFL. It's just a matter of, could he improve his draft stock drastically enough with one more year of college football, make enough money in college football to make that make sense, right? And so I think that's where it's at right now. Oh my God, hold on. Well, we'll get to that. I got a lot of stuff to go through here. It's a mistake for Notre Dame in the long run. I don't know if it's a mistake for them to bring him in the long run. If they were to continue to do this every year, even with CJ Carr as he gets older, then it might be. Yeah, I don't care who you bring in, just win. Exactly. D-line is definitely a major concern. I believe they're attempting to address that. The problem is, and I saw your comment about you'd rather see them take the $6 million, spend it on 2 D tackles and an edge rusher. The problem with that is there's not the level of talent in the portal at those positions. And it's just not there. So you can bring in D tackles that are in the portal, but they aren't going to be better than what you have.
And I'm not a big fan of the spring window. Yeah. Because at that point you're pretty much pulling guys off the scrap heap. Yeah. That if a coach leaves, in which we're not even talking about Black Monday coming in the NFL. Mm-hmm. We haven't even dived down that rabbit hole. I had somebody tell me 15 to 20 prominent coaches to coordinators at the college game are going to bolt and go to the NFL because it's like a crabs in the bucket thing right now, because some of these coaches that I've talked to do not like the immediate eligibility and renegotiating contracts every 3 months, because you could go back in and say, hey, I need more money. Hey, I need more money. And some of these coaches that are in charge of even dealing with this, it is a financial nightmare, because, and they say the coaches aren't involved in doing this and that the whole tampering thing is just made up. It's all make believe. Just if your school gets a kid from another school and it was nowhere in the media, and poof, he enters the portal and then he commits to your school, there was tampering going on.
Well, yeah.
Let's be real. And the Jim Moore thing, I seen that, and I say, you know what, Jim, congratulations, go die on that hill if you want to. It's whatever.
Yeah, so here's how tampering's done, because I found this out and from somebody that I talked to, and they told me, like, yeah, it happens, but it's not tampering. So what happens is there's like 3 or 4 major agents in college football that represent almost every quarterback, every skill position in the portal. There's only 3 or 4. And so say you're Notre Dame and you go to these agents that you have a relationship with, right? One of them represented Riley Leonard last year. You go to them and say, hey, I need a quarterback out of the portal. Well, they represent 25 quarterbacks. They're not just going to go to the quarterbacks that are already in the portal and be like, hey, Notre Dame needs a guy. They're going to look at their client list and say, what fits the best? What is the best opportunity for my clients? Because their job as an agent is to get their client into the best position possible, to raise their draft stock, to raise their compensation, to make more money for them. Because guess what? The agent gets a cut. So then the agent goes to a kid, i.e. Quinn Ewers or whoever, who's maybe not in the portal, said, hey, Notre Dame reached out to me. They need a quarterback. I think you'd be a good fit. Here's the number that I know that they're willing to offer, because they told me we'll spend up to this much on a quarterback, depending on the level of quarterback. And then they go to their client, and there's no legal way to prevent that from happening. That agent is legally allowed to represent that client and to try to get him the best deal possible. The school is not reaching out directly to the player, so there's no illegal tampering going on there. It's all done through agents, and there's nothing the NCAA can do about it.
Or what I've heard, that's a very, very modest way to put it, but I've also heard that, let's say you went to random school in Columbus, and that college coach wants to get you on a visit or to see if you are able or willing or wanting to jump in the portal, they call said high school coach and
through the high school coaches for sure.
Talk to him about, Johnny, that's the left defensive end, totally made up name, Johnny. And, oh, yeah, by the way, you still talk to Charlie? Yeah, I still talk to Charlie. And, well, here's this. Don't text me about this, but how about we just keep this on the audio
DL.
call?
Oh, that happens too, for sure.
And you tell Charlie I got a bag of money for him if he decides he wants to go in the portal, and here's my number. As soon as he enters the portal, tell him to call me.
Mm-hmm.
So
that definitely goes on too. That again, not tampering. They're already allowed to talk to the high school coaches. Now it gets into a gray area because I don't think they're allowed to directly name players that are at other schools that they're interested in. But I mean, who's going to tell on them, right?
Right. And if I got a finder's fee for you too, you gonna go say anything?
No.
And well, sorry to cut you off. This is the last thing I got on this, but it's also funny, you had a relative in the industry for a little bit, and remember when he would tell the story of, well, we need to get this kid on campus, but we have no official visits. Oh, we're gonna have a camp and we're gonna pay the coach, and he just happened to bring the player. Like, there's loopholes, there's ways around this. The only thing the SEC's pissed off is because payroll's out of control right now.
Well, yeah, and because
allegedly.
And SEC used to be able to drop bags and get players allegedly, and now they can't do that because everybody can do it.
It ain't no fun.
I'm not gonna call Alabama Jones a cheater, all right, on College Game Day or anything like that.
Yeah.
But I do want to talk about this comment right here because I have thoughts. In my opinion, thank you, Jonah, for the comment, first of all. In my opinion, Notre Dame needs Ewers or Milroe, especially with Carr's development being stunted in the gauntlet to start the season. I like about 75% of what you just said. I agree. I think Carr having kind of injury concerns and things like that probably makes him maybe not ready to go right at the start of the season or not get as developed as much as he could have this year. Although the injuries didn't really stun his development through most of the development period, which is fall and spring camp. It was more, but either way. However, the one thing I blatantly disagree with is Jalen Milroe should never touch a football as a quarterback ever again. He is absolutely awful.
I mean, that's strip sack today. Holy shit!
Oh my god, he's bad.
Here's my
back.
thing with the Milroe stuff. Milroe is not in the right system to me.
No, I agree.
I feel like DeBoer doesn't like his quarterback, but he cannot give him the hook. And Milroe is going to play next year at Alabama. Whether he goes to the NFL and is successful, that I can't tell you. But I don't think that
No, he's going to have to transfer like Tulane or something. I honestly don't know a big program that'll take him at this point.
I don't know. I think there's enough meat on the bone as far as being a prospect because, there's probably a coach out there that could fix a lot of his issues. But I feel like in DeBoer likes the traditional drop back quarterback that's going to throw it 45 times a game. Milroe is not that. He's zone read, get him on the edge, let him cook at certain things that he's good at, and that's why he struggled against teams that that bring exotic pressure, like Oklahoma did, like Michigan did. Exotic pressure, confuse him at the line of scrimmage, and doing things because that's not his game to get you in and out of plays. It's more of a simplistic system that would fit his athletic tools, in my opinion, that would benefit him.
And like Jonah brought up, I think Mike Denbrock is one of those coaches that could develop a system that fits him a little better. I just understand that Jalen Milroe will never be Jaden Daniels, ever.
No.
Like, that's never going to happen. He's never going to be accurate like that. He's never going to be as good. So I can't take your So, but this is great, Dave. I appreciate you. Now you understand why people. I was thinking the same thing this entire game. When Michigan fans were telling me Alex Orji is Jalen Milroe 2.0, I thought it was a compliment. I thought they were saying Alex Orji was really good. I guess they're just saying he's just as bad. But yeah, I was told all offseason that there was going to be an orgy in the end zone with Michigan, and I never saw it. Did you guys ever see an orgy in the end zone? I mean, I'm sure he scored a touchdown.
I don't think I did.
But yeah,
I'm not sure. Here's an interesting tidbit we got here. I'll be interested to see what Denbrock comes out in. I think it's going to be the traditional, probably that triple option, that zone read look. Try to get on the edge.
The veer, run that veer.
That would be interesting to get Faison involved in it and everything like that. But yeah, I don't think they're going to change their offense. And we'll break down the game tomorrow. Pregame, we're going to go. What we decided, was it right after the Ohio State game, before the Notre Dame game?
Yeah, we're going to be in that.
And I'll give you my breakdown then. I don't think they need to change their offense. I mean, they'll do some new wrinkles and things like that to try to get an upper hand. But ultimately, when you look at Georgia's defense, this is not the Georgia defense of past. This Georgia defense is very mediocre. They are. You can look at SEC fans can come at me and tell me that they are just so middle of the road because of the level of competition they face. Well, your schools in the bowl games aren't showing me that level of competition is that much better than what Notre Dame and the Big Ten have faced. But I think they'll come out and run a lot of their same normal offense.
And I think one thing that Denbrock's going to put in this week that a lot of people that don't really bring it up or talk about it is in Kirby's offense, if you come out in 2x2 or 3x1, it changes it drastically. Whenever you go from 2x2 to 3x1, it changes his defense. And if you motion a back out to the 3x1 side, it just causes mass confusion, because I got that from if you go back and watch the 2014 breakdown on Minnesota Sports, Mr. Smith talks about that and how they fucked with Kirby's in Saban's defense when they would come out in the 3x1 or they would motion to 2x2 and run a back to either side, because there's all kinds of checks within the defense. So
it's a complex defense. So if you can cause confusion, that's how you beat that defense most of the time.
So
hey, listen, Jonah, I'd love to be wrong. If they take him, it'll be a much cheaper option to get Milroe than Ewers, but I just don't see it. I think Riley was a little better than Milroe has been. Why teams pull their quarterback they think is better to play a quarterback they thought was worse? Never understand. I agree. I don't know why they do it either, but
Jackson Arnold.
Sometimes, Jackson Arnold. There you go.
Will Howard.
I'm so sick and tired of Georgia fans hanging their hat on Texas. Look what Georgia's defense did against Texas. Yeah, I don't know how good Texas's offense really is, to be honest with you. I know Texas has a legit defense, although Clemson, had their moments where they were able to drive on them. I think they're top 70 in total yards allowed. I think they're top 40 in rush defense and top 80 in pass. Like I said, it's not it's not your typical Georgia defense. It's just not. You watch them on film, they don't look as good. You watch their stats, they don't look as good. You can just look at it.
Hey, Sid brings this up.
Exactly. Texas only scored 17 on A&M. Fact.
So one last reset of the show. We are 10 minutes away from the next playoff game kicking off. If you're out there watching on Twitter, we have a bunch of people in the chat tonight. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. Turn on those bell notifications. We're going to be going tomorrow in between Ohio State game and the Notre Dame game. Turn those bell notifications on. We'll try to get the word out on Twitter. Either follow me, Richie, or Carter. We'll be keeping you updated, and follow the show's Twitter page. And we're on Instagram And Austin, thanks for the sub. Go Irish. Thank you, sir. But yes, hit that like and subscribe button. It's helping us grow this show. We're trying to break the algorithm here, trying to break through. But
yeah, we'll be live. We'll be live before the game, leading up to the Notre Dame game, and then I promised that I would live stream at least the second half. So these guys might jump on if they aren't busy, but I'll live stream the second half. We won't be able to see the game on YouTube. Obviously, I'd get taken down immediately. But I'll live stream watching the game so I can give instant reactions and everything like that. But absolutely, go subscribe, follow, all that good stuff.
And we're on Spotify too. We gotta fix that and the Apple Music and all that. If you wanted to consume it by audio side and listen to some of the archived episodes, if YouTube isn't your main listening platform. But we got it coming down to brass tacks here. What is something that you're looking for, or anything else that you want to add for this evening, Carter?
I'm just looking to. Hopefully, these games are good, man. I just want to see good football. I want to see Penn State, Boise State be an actual game tonight. I want to see, and we'll talk about Ohio State, Oregon post game. I think Ohio State, Oregon is probably the most interesting game of the weekend. I mean, not for me personally, because I love Notre Dame. So Notre Dame, Georgia is my most. But like, I think for a majority of people, Ohio State, Oregon is the most interesting game, right? It's going to get the biggest rating. Everybody's going to watch it because those are the two teams that are after this weekend or after these 2 days. Whoever wins the Ohio State, Oregon game, I promise you, will have the best odds to win the national championship by a long shot. And it won't even be close. So I think that one's the one I'm most interested in. I think Ohio State can get it done, especially if they play like they did against Tennessee. You have a secondary in Ohio State that got a little bit torched by Oregon in the first matchup. So it's going to be interesting to see what changes they've made in the secondary. They came into that game and were not very afraid of Dylan Gabriel throwing it downfield because he hadn't done it all year, and then he did it against them. So I think that'll be interesting. So that's what I'm really watching. And then Arizona State, Texas. Who doesn't? I mean, that's going to be fun. I hope Skater Bro, goes out there and hangs 200 on them and just roughs them up because. Faison, that's my guy. I think Faison's my guy for this game. That is going to be the X factor because we all know Jordan Love, we all know Jadarian Price, we all know Riley Leonard are going to get it done in the run game at least semi-efficiently. But I think Jordan Faison's the X factor on offense.
Yeah, Rich, what do you got before we close up shop here tonight?
I'm just curious to see how, like Carter was saying, how well the adjustments are made for tomorrow's game with the Buckeyes playing, the Oregon Ducks. They were 1 point within victory, minus some mishaps. I'm curious to see if they can still keep riding that fire, riding that passion tomorrow night. Because essentially, this is the de facto national championship. I mean, if you really think about it, whoever wins this could go on, like Carter said, go on and win the national title. I want to see Arizona State upset Texas. I want to see if how well Skater Bro will play tomorrow. And lastly, I'm just curious. I want to see how well Ashton Genty runs against this Penn State defense. I want to see if he's worth his salt. If he can put the team, he's going to have to put the team on his shoulders like he's done all year. And if he, faces adversity, it's going to be a long night for the Boise State Broncos.
Absolutely. And Savvy here is calling out a scattered receiving report. Everyone's going to get involved catching the ball. And Bo Collins. We haven't talked much about Bo Collins recently. Collins is going to have a breakout performance. I love that. I love Bo Collins. I think he should be a lot better than he has been. But I love that. And before we get out of here, I just want to make sure everybody, if you haven't, go to Notre Dame's Twitter, Notre Dame Football, and watch their hype video, man. They are killing the hype videos. If you guys haven't seen it, Choppa style, let me get a hand clap.
Oh, man. And one thing that I'll add, and I'll throw it out there. We'll start with Texas, Arizona State. If Scatterboo gets rolling, it's gonna be a problem for Texas. That was one thing that Clemson couldn't do because they had no running back. Scadaboo's a big mofo, and we'll see if we can get him going.
Did you see what Scadaboo had to say?
No, I did not.
Oh, he came out kind of talking a little shit. He was talking a little shit about how, like, they were saying, like, how can you run against this defense? And he was like, I forget the exact words, but basically just said, like, how can this defense stop me?
Yeah. We'll see how that pans out. I think Texas, Arizona State is a shakeup game. With that being said, I think that Arizona State, I'll give them a puncher's chance if they can down a distance and stifle Texas. Will this be the game that breaks the camel's back, where we get full blown Arch Manning?
No.
Arch Manning watch.
Arch Manning.
Manning watch.
You keep bringing this up every time Texas plays a game, and no, they're not going to play Arch Manning. I mean, he'll play like in the Wildcat or whatever, but they're not going to just change quarterbacks middle of the second round of the playoffs.
Do we get Arch Manning watch, and then also do in the Ohio State Oregon game? I don't know where I'd lean on this one, because I feel like if Ohio State comes out running the ball, they'll be good. Mm-hmm. I don't want last week when they went bombs over Baghdad. I do not want to see them throwing it 50 times, because I think Oregon is a little soft up front, and I feel like Trey and Quinshawn are who you need to lean on. Will Ryan Day do that? Hopefully nobody says anything about toughness. Because he turns into a turtle. But also, we'll see. I kind of like Oregon in that game a little bit.
Yeah, I think Ohio State just needs to do what they did offensively the first time, which they ran the ball effectively, and right. I mean, just do that, but tighten up the defense. But before we get out of here, Brendan said his brother-in-law is a huge OSU fan. Brendan, here's what you need to do, all right? Because I have a lot of OSU fans around me. I pretend to be one some days. I like Ohio State, but all you got to hope for, root for Ohio State. Here's why. Notre Dame, Ohio State natty would be the most epic natty of all time, right? So root for Notre Dame, root for Ohio State, let them both get there, and then let's root for Notre Dame to get their get back, right? Because Notre Dame should have beat Ohio State last year. They should have beat them, and they didn't. They let Honda McCord beat them. And so let's root for a natty and let Notre Dame get their get back. All right. The only thing good to come out of Arizona State is Phil Mickelson. I'm a Tiger fan, but I respect Phil now.
Hey,
Arizona State, that's for sure.
Pat Perez, and then tonight's game, I think Penn State rolls. I think James Franklin gets the quote unquote flowers that everybody's gonna say he finally won a big game. But if this is another SMU game, we gotta get something here, because
we gotta get rid of the auto buys for sure.
We talked about it, disagreed with it, but by criteria, this is the de facto game that we get. So that is what it is. But you guys got anything else? We'll do the Notre Dame thing tomorrow before the game. We got to keep you on a cliffhanger there.
Yeah, absolutely.
You got anything else, Carter or Richie?
Nope.
Well, Happy New Year, everybody. Have a great New Year.
Happy New Year.
Be safe tonight. Don't do anything stupid where it's going to hem you up for the next year or so.
Yeah, get an Uber if you're going to go out.
Yes, get an Uber.
There's no need to get behind the wheel.
Please be safe, everybody, tonight. Happy New Year. We'll see you back here tomorrow. Follow us on Twitter to get the direct show updates. Hit that like and subscribe button. Turn on the bell notifications. In case you forget, having that bell notification will be key to catching the show live. We had a ton of people tonight. Austin, Brendan, Savvy GG, everybody. Thanks for watching tonight, and we'll see you tomorrow.